department?
My house is on fire, 37E Limerick Place.
37E Limerick?
Limerick. It's an oil, a grease fire. I had grease on the stove and it ignited.
Get off the phone and I'll send the truck.
Thank you.
Fires are always dangerous. Property damage, injuries, and often fatalities are usually the result. There are many causes of fires, but in the household, one of the most common is a cooking fire. 29% of all fires originate in the kitchen, and 45% of these derive from the overheating and ignition of cooking oils on a stove. Cooking fires are a major cause of burn-related injuries. There's no doubt, grease fires are a dangerous thing, yet it's a sad fact that they occur often and cause many deaths, many injuries, and much damage. A way of reducing or even eliminating cooking fires would be a major step forward in home and fire safety. If a device existed that can sense an impending cooking fire well before the moment of ignition, remove the threat, and at the same time warn the homeowner of a potentially dangerous outbreak of fire and smoke, it would be a lifesaver. Now, such a device does exist. A new product has been developed by Wolfgang Schoor, whose lifelong interest in fire safety motivated him to design the Schoor Fire-Stop, a device that can prevent cooking fires from even starting. But before we look at the Fire-Stop, let's examine the reasons why cooking fires are so dangerous. Fire Prevention Officer Bob Walters has had years of experience with the Thunder Bay Fire Department, dealing with fires of all kinds. He has seen far too many cooking fires, and he knows what damage they can do.
Usually comes down to the same scenario. Somebody's done something around the stove unit and left it unattended, and the fire just breaks away from that point in time. In this society of ours, with everybody wanting something quick, we have the tendency to put the pot on the stove and we want to cook French fries. Now we want to get them as fast as we can, so we turn the element basically to the high. Everything has an ignition temperature in it. There is enough heat underneath any kind of frying pan to get oils to ignite. So if you're not there in the early phases when it starts smoking to turn the element down or to take it off for a minute, then it just flat breaks out into flames in your kitchen. The common thought is, and the people understand, that they never leave cooking unattended. Yet on the investigation side, when we do these investigations of grease fires or cooking fires, the common denominator is always, but I only left it for a minute.
Tests performed at the Thunder Bay Fire Center proved how explosive overheated cooking oil can be. Once the oil reached its ignition temperature, the results were both spectacular and frightening. Reignition was also shown to be a problem. Reignition occurs when a flaming pan is covered. This puts out the fire if left long enough and the heat is turned off. But if the oil is still hotter than ignition temperature, it will burst into flames when uncovered.
I've seen it, I guess, a number of ways. Fighting fires as a firefighter, as an investigator, and now somebody that kind of fooled around it with some research on it. And yes, I didn't know it was that violent. But I definitely have a little more respect for it, or not a little more, actually a lot more, because it reacted very violently the next time I took it off. I knew when I grabbed the lid that I could feel the vacuum. But it was too late. My hand was reacting before my brain said, don't do it.
Chief Jim Hamer has been with the Thunder Bay Fire Department for more than 30 years. His knowledge of the effect cooking fires can have on victims is extensive, and he's very aware of how much harm a cooking fire can do, especially to the people injured.
The statistics in our department have us responding to a great deal of fires that are caused as a result of the improper use of cooking materials and techniques. They are very devastating fires. Anyone that has observed and burned themselves as a result of a very, very small bit of grease hitting them, you certainly would understand someone totally involving themselves in that type of a fire. Very, very devastating, and psychological problems as a result of that. People just don't burn themselves and then the next day they go back to work. There's certainly a healing process that takes time, and some people never really recover from that type of a fire.
Cheryl Winters knows all too well what an out-of-control fire can do. It was a simple cooking lesson that nearly resulted in tragedy.
It was Sunday evening, and my son had just returned from a fly-in fishing trip, and we were going to have a fish and French fry night. I was going to teach him how to have French fries in the pot. help me make dinner. I'm just beginning to teach him dinner. We had taken a stainless steel pot and filled it half full of oil. I put a lot of oil in because prior to that we'd had a French fry evening, and my friend had made a suggestion that we needed a lot of oil to cook French fries. So I put a lot of oil in the pot, put it on high, and my son was with me, and I just said he was interested in learning about it, and I said, I'm going to bring it to a boil, it'll cool down a bit, and I'll show you gently how to put the fries in. And he was standing close to the stove with me, and then I walked away. And my son says, Mom, it's boiling. I said, yeah, I'll be right there. I put a cigarette down, and all of a sudden he said, Mom. And I went walking over, and it had boiled, and it just engulfed. That's when I grabbed the pot, picked it up. I wanted to get it away from him and me. That was just the initial reaction. But my kitchen is long. By the time I backed up from the stove to the kitchen, I was just going slow. That's when I became aware in my brain that this is very hot. Something's not going in good here. I was wearing exactly what I'm wearing. And I just had to go around the corner. My kids were screaming, crying. The animals, I don't know. Just the flames were really high in front of my face. And I wanted to get out to the back entrance. And as soon as I crossed there, I just remember a woof of air. It was coming up higher. And at that point in time, I knew I was beyond. My hand was pretty much into the pot. And I knew my brain wanted to just throw it. The sad part is I rent here, and that was before me and my family's safety. The home, protecting the home. And if I ever had a situation like that again, I hope and pray I never go with that thought first over above us and our safety.
Cheryl Winters was fortunate. Her injuries, while painful, will heal. She will be able to go on with her life. A resident of this house wasn't so lucky. He died after a fire broke out in his home. The cause was an out-of-control grease fire. Cooking fires begin under the most innocent of circumstances. The act of preparing a meal should be a simple one, yet things can quickly get out of hand. When they do, the results can be devastating. It was tragedies like this that prompted Wolfgang Schoor to develop the Schoor Fire-Stop.
I was worried about fires in the home, and I knew that kitchen fires are some of the main causes for these fires. I then designed a device that prevents this from happening. This is an early working prototype, and it clearly shows how it works. At the moment, the components are electrical components, but eventually it will be state-of-the-art or solid state, and it will be on a circuitry board. I'm going to turn on the device now, and so that there is power to the stove, and you will see it's powered up now. There is a little light that indicates that there's power in the stove. I will turn on the stove element as well, and I will move the pan off the element, and you will see that it is on. Now I'm going to simulate a fire, because it is too dangerous to have an actual fire indoors. So I will manually activate the device.
Let's see that again in slow motion. The Schoor Fire-Stop reacts to smoke, setting off a warning buzzer. Next, it turns off the flow of electricity to the stove before the oil can ignite. Any oil or any smoking material can then cool before a fire breaks out.
If every household had one of my devices, the number of deaths and fires would be dramatically reduced.